Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Aspire to Be. Today we have Adam Scott, who works as the VP of Technology at Scott Industrial Systems. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Adam.
Absolutely.
So, how did you get to become the VP of Technology at your company?
So a couple of different answers to that question. Number one, so I am considered third generation of ownership at Scott Industrial. So my grandparents started the company in 1948. So we're coming up on 70-ish years. So I've been very fortunate to have that pedigree to fall into. It isn't to say that when I started working at the company that I was some sort of manager. My dad said, hey, if you're going to work for me, you're going to start in the warehouse. So I started packing boxes and then just kind of moved my way through the company, trying different departments and organizations as openings were presented, as people would retire or we needed to expand, those kinds of things. So it's hard to answer that question because there's nothing that's led me here other than opportunity and me being willing to kind of take the risk and try something new.
Nice. So did you get any type of education after high school to lead you to where you are now?
Yeah, and it isn't to say that the education my higher education didn't necessarily lead me to my position as it stands, per se, and the degree that I earned, I earned a bachelor's degree of biology. And then, believe it or not, I started an MBA and realized that I didn't feel like it was worth my time and money. So about halfway through, I stopped. I felt like the on-the-job training was much better than what I could learn in class. But yeah, while the schooling didn't necessarily lead me to where I am today, the act of trying to improve myself, learn new things, expand my brain and the pathways, that kind of thing, that's definitely helped. There's no question about that.
Awesome. So what does a typical day look like for you in your position?
So it's varied over the years. Today, since we are launching a new ERP system, which is basically the software that runs our company, that does all of our invoices and payables and keeps track of the customers, that whole deal, the software in the background, we're actually switching platforms. And so I've been tasked with managing that project. It's a big undertaking. It's really important, of course, to every user in the company. Obviously, that's their daily life is in that system. So lately, that's what I've been doing is training on that and then training the managers in our organization. It's been a roller coaster. It's not our first rodeo. We've actually done this before about 10 years ago or 12 years ago. But that was when I was just a pup and I didn't know a whole lot. So now that I know a little more, I'm able to get into that. But that's been my main task, and it kind of partners a little bit with our IT group and online marketing. Nice.
Were there any events that you would say from high school that kind of pushed you into this general direction?
No, I wouldn't. And I don't mean to sound negative, but my situation was a little unusual in that I didn't want to do this. I never wanted to work for my father. I never wanted to work for the family company. I kind of wanted to go blaze my own trail, do my own thing. It wasn't until a handful of wise people in my early 20s said, aren't you being a little foolish to pass on this opportunity to work in an incredible legacy in a growing company? And so after I earned my degree in biology, which of course that doesn't apply to fluid power or industrial sales whatsoever, I had medicine in mind. I asked my dad for a summer job to try it out. And, 19 years later, here I am, a summer job.
Do you have any advice or thoughts that someone would want to follow into your footsteps, working as a board member for a larger company?
That's a good question. I'd hate to sound like cliche, but integrity, honesty, doing what you say, and not being a clock watcher, anymore we find that, especially, and I'm not trying to sound negative against younger people, because that's certainly not what it is, but there seems to be a shifting culture and how people view their business that they work for. It used to be that it was kind of a way of life. The term company man, I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but when you started with a company in your 20s, it was just kind of assumed that was who you're going to retire with. That is certainly no longer the case. But to get to an upper level position, it really requires a lot of good fortune, being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, there's no doubt about showing the company that you work for that you aren't just there for a paycheck, that the contract between employee and employer isn't just, I work these hours, you pay me, that's that there's the extra mile really does mean a lot, just as it did in school. It doesn't change in life at all. And the whole idea of kind of being a clock watcher, like, 5 o'clock, doesn't matter where I am in my job, I just drop my pencil and walk out the door, that unfortunately isn't going to get you there. It just never will. And so, if that's something that you aspire to, those kind of personality traits are really, really important. And working well with others, of course, is hugely important when you're on a board, to not be the person that just slams your fist on a table and says, this is what we should do, and this is why, and if you don't agree with me, you're all idiots, that kind of thing. That just, some people are like that, but it certainly won't win you friends, and it certainly won't win you points with your organization. That's a tough question, man, but that's the best I can give you.
It's a great response. So you're talking a little bit about don't slam your fist down. How vital is communication to your position?
I'm trying to think of something more important, other than competence in whatever industry you're in. Of course, that's number one. You got to know your craft, and knowing your craft better than your competitors know their own craft. That's how you're going to get really successful. Communication, both verbal, in a social setting, and also written. It's huge. Properly crafting an email, you wouldn't believe how important that is in being able to accurately communicate your opinion on things. Obviously, that's probably where school comes into play mostly, right? We go to school and we think that, learning algebra and calculus is gonna, maybe there's some fields in this world that directly applies to, but generally we're there to learn how the world works and how to communicate with one another, how to properly phrase our opinions on things, how to create our opinions on things. So communication, a second to competence, in the hierarchy of importance.
How has your job shifted amidst the pandemic?
A lot. Obviously there's been a lot of trying to navigate how people emotionally react to the pandemic. Everyone has their own opinion on things, and everyone looks at it differently. So that's been number one challenge, I'd say, in our organization, and things that have changed is dealing with that, is dealing with either people's frustration over handling or not handling something well versus their just total anxiety over how are you going to protect me and that kind of thing. We've definitely have to shift towards doing exactly what we're doing right now. A lot of Zoom meetings. We've done a lot of that. At the beginning, it was really awkward, especially for anyone, 55 and older. It's just, trying to, it's just embarrassing. You're sitting in these meetings and you're like, hey, you're muted. I can't hear you, that kind of thing. And so just being patient with that. We've definitely had to kind of call an audible and change. We're moving more into the internet sphere, even though there's nothing new to that, but we really want to get out on YouTube and start doing some online marketing.
If there's one thing you could tell yourself back in high school, and even maybe when you were in college, what would it be?
It's never too late to make the right decision.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
All right.